Hello and welcome, and in today's video I'm going to share with you the top 10 Armoured Ark Tames, so let's get into it. In at number 10 is the Carb Enemies, and this creature has very obvious armor, being a turtle, and also it does have damage reduction along with that armor as well, which most creatures on this list do actually have, which is a nice ability to have, and it's the benefits of having armor obviously. And its tail is armored along with its back, where its legs are obviously exposed. And if you're taming one of these things, you always want to shoot for that point on its body, as the damage reduction and torpor reduction won't apply in those areas. Its head armor also does apply as armor as well, and I think the under of its belly does apply as well. Either way, this thing is a literal tank with loads and loads of armor all over it, and it is a great creature in the beginning stages of the game if you want to go out and farm those silica pearls and oil if you don't have beaver dams at the ready, but the oil part will still be extremely useful in the early game, as taming an underwater creature can be a bit of a drag, although the Ichthyosaurus isn't too bad and will do a better job than this thing. You can just have this really early on to do all of your oil gathering, and it actually really isn't too slow in the water, although it is pretty slow on land. Next up we have the Plutora, and this creature pretty much just has armor all the way along its body. Not sure if this has any damage reduction or torpor reduction or anything like that, but it is very heavily armored all along its body. If you call that armor, I would call it armor. It is definitely armor looking like, and it kind of makes sense considering it's an insect. It's its exoskeleton, which does count as a form of armor. And in terms of this thing's use for the general PvP, not PvP, for the general PvE player, these things won't really be of much use to you. But for the general PvP player, these can be of extreme use, as they can destroy any type of structures, which is a great option for doing raids, as these things are a really sneaky creature, and they do a heck of a lot of damage when it comes to destroying structures. They can even destroy tech, which is an absolutely insane ability for a creature of this size to actually have. Now, the Gacha technically does have a lot of armor along its back, with those rocks literally sticking out from it, and it kind of is generally armored all over. Although it doesn't have the most armor of any creature, it has an extremely amazing use, which is the fact that the crystals on its back can give you a variety of resources, which you can choose in the options menu in its inventory. But also, if you give it snow owl pellets, it can give you absolutely insane OP loot, which you really don't want to miss out on. And albeit it has been nerfed since release, it is still a very OP option if you obviously have a snow owl and a gacha to go around, or even just a gacha to itself, and you can see this in action here. And you can even get gachas, if you're really lucky, to make you element dust, I think is what it's called, although that isn't as useful anymore now since Gen 2 released. And in at number 7 we have ourselves the Vonaur, and in my opinion this is an armored creature. You can kind of see its face is somewhat armored, and on its back it's got all those spikes and things like that. I would count this as an armored creature, but I'm not going to whack it up really high in case anyone gets too annoyed about this creature, as yes, I can say it isn't the most armored creature out there, but it definitely is one which I think every Ark player should respect, as it has a great ability where it can fire its spines, I guess you could say, or spurs, whatever you really want to call them, and just shoot them into any target. And sadly it doesn't scale with melee damage, but if you level up your stamina, these things can absolutely pump these things in to any creature which you may want to be attacking. And also with that, their stamina drain is one of the lowest in the game out of every creature, and I really think at some point you should give the Vonaur a go, especially if you have Genesis Part 2 or Extinction, because they kind of spawn on those maps, and mainly on Gen 2 actually, as the Vonaur is really a great creature, just an upgraded version of the original creature, which I really like already. Now, we've got the Stegosaurus, and this thing has rider protection, so it's an armoured creature, and also with all of its armour plates all along it, it definitely fits the list very well. But why have I put this thing so high on the list? Comparatively, you would just think this is just your generic herbivore. Well, apart from just being your generic, pretty good herbivore actually, it is a great gatherer of berries and of wood as well. Since the TLC 3 update, this thing is amazing at doing any kind of turret soaking, berry gathering, and wood gathering on top of that as well. And Microraptors can't seem to attack this thing, which is very much to your benefit, as Microraptors, yeah, no one really likes Microraptors. They are so annoying in like every case. But, you know, rider protection coming to the rescue here. But in terms of obviously their main abilities, they have 3 plate modes. The sharpen plate, that's going to deal the most damage, and also give you the capability to harvest bushes, as you can't do it in any of the other plate modes as far as I'm concerned. Then you got the heavy plate, which is good for wood gathering, and then you have also got, I can't remember what it's called now, you've got, it's something like the armored plate. Either way, it's what the other plate is. You've got the sharpened, heavy, yeah, I think it's the armored plate, and that plate is going to be great for turret soaking, as it's going to give it so much damage reduction, and it's actually insane how much damage reduction this thing actually has. Also, if I got the plate wrong, just list the name down below in the comments. I really do need to remind myself. In at number 5 is the Shadowman, and you may think that this creature isn't armoured at all, but I did a little bit of research before this video to prove a statement which I was already going to say about this thing. When making this video, I was going to put this thing right in the middle, and the reason why I'm going to say it's an armoured tame is because it has natural armour, and it is called that in the game, so I'm counting it as armour. It has armour, and the game recognises this, and it is actually where its saddle slot would be, as this creature doesn't have a saddle, but it does have natural armour, and the wyvern doesn't have natural armor. I was going to put that thing on the list, but, you know, maybe not. The Shadowman is definitely a lot more deserving of the title of an armored creature anyway, and it has a wealth of great abilities like you've seen there. Its mobility is insane. Also in the water it is great as well. It does a lot of damage. It's great impacts. It's great for boss fights. Its only real downside being the fact that its taming method is one of the most annoying in the game in my opinion, and I really struggle with it every single time. Anyone else, comment down below if you struggle with some Shadowman taming. Now, the Rhino Ganatha is one of the most recent additions to Ark, and you can just see how much armor this thing has all over its body, and it is a really great creature, but also considering it's an insect, it kind of makes sense. Basically, every insect in the game is armoured. If you didn't know already, the Rhino Ganatha spawns on the island and also the Lost Island, and in the old version of Ark, it is actually extremely rare, where a tool like Dino Creature Finder Deluxe, sorry, can't even read the title of the mod, that is a great option if you can't find it and you're on PC. But if you don't have access to that mod, always just raise your dino count or use the command destroy wild dinos, as this is really going to work to your advantage. The destroy wild dinos command is essentially just going to destroy every wild dino on the map. Pretty self-explanatory. There's another command which is very similar to this, which will also get rid of your tame creatures too, but you'll probably be doing this on a single player world of yours, because you won't be able to do this on servers unless you're actually running that server, and you know, you've got to make sure no one's taming anything at that time. Yeah, that can cause annoyance, but on single player you're not going to want to kill your own tames. To tame one though, speaking of taming, you want to kill a male Rhino Ganatha and get the pheromone, like you've seen there. Get those resources, which were just on screen. Get yourself a Bronto. Those resources aren't necessary to tame it, but they are only necessary for 100%. Then essentially you'll need to net gun it or trap it. Net gunning is way easier. Then pull out your magnifying glass, or you can obviously use the awesome spyglass, which is what I'm using here. Makes it significantly easier, and then you just want to really damage this thing as much as you can, literally on the brink of death, as long as there isn't any danger around, which could just quickly kill this thing off, as then otherwise you're going to have to find yourself another female Rhino Ganatha, which really isn't going to be something which you can want. And obviously during that process of it being trapped, you can obviously lower its health even more just to keep it down there. Then feed the pheromone to your creature, and then after a short amount of time for the net gun, I think it's only 30 seconds, and in the trap, I don't know, just let it out of the trap, I guess. It will impregnate your dino, then that dino will roll over, but during that stage there, you can use all its resources to get 100% effectiveness. Then this creature's going to pop out of your tame, and you're going to have yourself a Ranata. Pretty cool method, actually. In at number 3 is the Anki, and I'm going to put the Dodic in this position as well, as I think those two creatures really deserve to be in the number 3 spot. Not quite as good as the creatures in at 2 and 1, but still an insanely insane creature. Don't know why I did the same word twice there, but these creatures are great harvesters of stone, flint, and obviously metal. The Anki being the more popular of the two, which is why I've done B-roll of it, because it's going to gather berries. It's not going to, actually it can gather berries, but it's going to gather yourself that metal and all of that flint, which is pretty much, it is just essential in the Ark game. And the Anki is going to gather you all of that stone. Still very useful if you want to make spark powder, which is essential in making gunpowder. And also, stone is also a way of getting cementing paste if you have some chitin or keratin to hand too. And obviously, stone structures are made out of it. So it is still a pretty essential part of the game too. But the Anki is obviously the more used creature, and you can tell it's an armor tame. Just look at this thing. It's got a lot of armor, and it definitely is one of those kind of Ark tanks which you'll see around, and a sort of surprising one considering its size, but it definitely is very worthy of the number 3 spot. Now, I know metal is a really useful thing, but I have to put the rock elemental in at number 2 for the best armor tames. This thing is literally a hunk of rocks. It is just all armor. This thing is literally plated with so much of the stuff, and it is an absolutely buff tank of a creature. And sorry about there being no saddle here. My character is just flying over it, if you haven't noticed already. But yeah, you know, I should have put a saddle on it. The benefits of force taming, I guess. Either way, its main kind of use on Scorched Earth for me, whenever I use it, is for defeating deathworms to tame myself the best mantises which I possibly can, as they use deathworm horns to tame, or woolly rhino horns, but you're not going to find woolly rhinos on Scorched Earth. But they're also just great for absolutely obliterating everything, and they're really good turret soakers as well. Their only real downside being their taming method, of course, which, you know, isn't the kindest to new Ark players. And in at number 1 is the Reaper. This thing is literally plated in armor and spikes, and it is one of the best creatures out there, in my opinion, in the whole of Ark, actually. It has a great atmosphere, great taming method, great mobility, and it is great all around. There's nothing really which I think I could do better with this creature, or Wildcard could have done better with this creature, actually. It's almost a perfect tame, and I have to say almost because, you know, there is never actually ever a perfect tame. There is always going to be a creature which is going to be better at that job. But in terms of this thing's taming method, because I'm talking about taming so much for some reason, you essentially need to get impregnated by it, which you'll do by trapping one of these things, then getting it to glow a pink glow. I think it needs to be below 1000 health. Then go up to it, it will impregnate you. Then just gather loads and loads of XP if you want 100% effectiveness. Otherwise, just wait for this baby to hatch. Get some Reaper pheromone glands to hand so the baby doesn't want to kill you quite as much, so you can actually claim that thing and raise it as yours. And then from there, it's pretty simple. You just raise up that baby, and then you have yourself this absolute hunking beast of a creature, which is an absolute joy to ride around on. It is extremely mobile and can do so much, and it does a heavy hitting amount of damage too. Truly the best armored creature. But anyway, that is the end of today's video, and I really hope that you all enjoyed this one, as I really did enjoy making it for you. And as always, comment down below in the comments what is your favourite armored tame, and I'll see you all later.